There have been two major weaknesses in the Lexus lineup for quite some time now. One being that there is no competitive and viable three-row crossover. And two, in today's day and age, without a battery electric option within your luxury lineup is kind of a joke. Well, both of those things are about to change. We find ourselves back at Automotive News, just a wonderful source of information. I'm not sponsored by them or anything, but guys, if you enjoy my content, definitely check them out because they cover everything in the automotive industry, not just the Japanese information that I talk about. But guys, we're going to keep reading here. John Iacono, he is reprising his role as chairman of the dealer council for Lexus here in the United States. And he smacks us right upside the face with the news we've been waiting for a long time. He says Lexus retailers will be getting a truly competitive three-row luxury crossover, as well as a long sought after battery electric vehicle to compete head-to-head against rival brands. Alright guys, video's over. Thanks for watching. Just kidding. We're going to go over the spreadsheet once we're finished up with these quotes from Mr. Iacono. He says, recently Lexus has showed us some coming products that I can't really expand upon. Of course, because you'd probably be put in jail or a target on his head if he was to break the non-disclosure agreement. But he is very, very enthusiastic about them. We've been asking for larger SUVs, and we've been asking for a true three-row people mover, which we're getting relatively soon. Now, relatively soon, I mean, that's extremely vague. I would say by the end of 2022. Not going to put my money down on that, but I would say that I think that it is totally capable by the end of 2022 to have a competitive three-row crossover. This is something Lexus has struggled with for so long. You might be saying, Kirk, Lexus has three-row crossovers in their lineup. It's true. They have the LX. That's $100,000. That's out of most people's budget. They have the GX. Well, the GX is body on frame. Wonderful vehicle for off-roading. Wonderful old school V8 as well. But the three-row capability in it is kind of a joke because there's no storage space behind the third row like at all. Like 4 inches, something like that. It's a joke. Also, the last three-row crossover, which is also not usable, is the RX 450HL or the RX 350L, which they kept the wheelbase the same on the RX. They just made it longer, and you can't stick real people in that third row. So it's not usable. And it's quite laughable compared to the Audi Q7, to the Acura MDX, especially the new one, the upcoming Infiniti QX60, the Genesis GV80 as well. I could go on and on. The Lexus lineup just isn't competitive in the three-row market. It's really, really sad to see. Luckily, Lexus has listened, and they're finally going to give something that the dealers and the customers have been asking for a long, long time. They remind us that Lexus dealers have been playing defense as the brand has freshened its sedans. And for sedans, if you've been living under a rock, apparently they haven't been selling very well. So they get refreshes on their sedans, and their crossovers have been aging quite noticeably. He said, but the brand has new and redesigned vehicles on the way that should tap what American consumers are looking for. Well, new means completely new model altogether. That's referring to both of these new cars he's talking about, which is the three-row crossover and the electric. I'm going to say it's a crossover because why wouldn't it be? And redesign obviously means redesigned nameplates such as the NX and the RX should be coming soon, as well as the LX could be happening by the end of this year as well. And to generate a little bit more hype, he says, I believe in the next 2 to 3 years, our lineups will be totally refreshened, and the conquest ability for our folks that is not in the Lexus family is going to be much greater than what it is right now. So if you're unaware, Lexus has one of the highest loyalty ratings, but they don't have one of the best conquest ratings, meaning they don't have the ability to reach out to other brands and steal customers and switch them over to Lexus customers. And that's getting harder and harder to do in today's day and age. For Lexus, it's been extraordinarily difficult because not only are their competitors really, really changing fast and upgrading, Lexus has just stayed pretty darn stagnant the past 10, 15 years. They've had very, very little signs of innovation. Talking about the Lexus EV, he says, I personally, with other Lexus dealers, have gotten a glimpse of what the EV might look like when, not if, but when it comes to Lexus. And I believe that it has put a smile on our face, that we're going to have a player in the market. And it's about damn time, and I don't curse a whole lot on this channel, but the fact that Lexus was a pioneer in electrification with the RX 400H back in 2006, and their hybrid game has really stagnated since. And yeah, has it gotten slightly better, but not fast enough in today's completely different electrification market. They're behind the curve, especially in the luxury game when it comes to electrification. But yeah, he seems to be pretty thrilled about the EV finally coming to Lexus. And guys, it's time to get into the spreadsheet. I probably spent the last 2 hours revising an old spreadsheet. Still take it with a grain of salt because it's just my predictions, but this is what I expect the Lexus lineup to look pretty close to in the next 2 to 3 years, whether it's the sedan or SUV end of things. We're going to start with the SUVs. And here we are. We're going to start with what we have right now on the SUV end of things. We have the UX, we have the NX, the RX, the GX, the LX, and I believe that's it in the SUV lineup, and it's going to change quite a bit as well. Fast forward to 2022 and beyond. I don't see the UX getting a whole lot of changes. I don't see the UX 300 here, fully electric vehicle, ever come to the United States, but I think there is a good chance that we could see a plug-in hybrid eventually of the UX 250, maybe the 250H Plus, being fairly similar to, let's say, the Prius Prime, but with all-wheel drive and a little bit more power. That is a possibility. I didn't speculate on it in the written spreadsheet, but there you go. I just told you what I think could happen with it. The NX is going to have 6 powertrains when it debuts, either late next summer or early next fall. And I guess this fall, it's 2021 already. So this vehicle will be coming this year. And there will be a new entry-level version of this with the naturally aspirated inline 4 that we see, let's say, in the RAV4. Entry level, be a cheap option to get people into the Lexus lineup. So that would be the NX 250, front wheel drive and all wheel drive. Then they debuted this 2.4 liter inline 4 turbo. And we got some reports from Japan this morning on more information on this 2.4 liter turbo. So we're going to head over to Best Car and read about what's going on with the new Alphard, which we don't get here, but they also make a Lexus version of that called the LM for Asian markets. And there's some information about the Prado, which we'll touch about at the end here. They're saying this Alphard is going to be, of course, be on the TNGA-K platform. They're going to have a GR Sports version of it, which looks pretty sick. Look at this thing. I would take that over a Sienna any day. But really what the big thing is here is that the powertrains, the 3.5 liter V6 is scrapped for a 2.4 liter turbo with 320 PS, that is 315 horsepower, and 45 kilogram meters, which is roughly 325 pound-feet of torque. Again, not official, but it's coming from Japan, and that's the closest thing we have at this point in time as gospel. So here we are. That's going to underpin a lot of the Lexus vehicles in the next 3 years. It's a 2.4 liter turbo, 315 horsepower, 325 pound-feet of torque or so. Now, NX 350H, we know this is coming as well. It will replace the NX 300H, will be all-wheel drive standard, I believe, and I believe it will have the same electrification, let's say, as the Highlander, the Sienna. I think those are the only two with 254 horsepower at this point in time anyways. All-wheel drive, 254 horsepower, expect 40 miles per gallon or so. A little bit more push and edge to get this vehicle more power compared to its RAV4 and Harrier/Venza as well. So it has a little bit more power than them. Then they're going to have a plug-in hybrid. Again, I would expect it to be something like the Direct 4 setup, a lot more torque sent to that rear axle compared to the RAV4 Prime, over 300 horsepower, but the real difference is going to be the torque and the amount of power sent to the rear wheels, in theory, versus the RAV4 Prime. And that should sum up everything for the NX. Now, this vehicle could be the first ever electric vehicle from Lexus, the RZ450E. It has been trademarked. Now, the first vehicle could also be, guys, the 500E RX or the RX 500E. A very similar vehicle was tested at the debut of the Direct 4 technology presentation, I guess, this past December. We will get more information about their electrification plans in the coming month or so as Lexus debuts that. But the first EV for Lexus here in the States could either be the RZ or the RX 500E. Now the RX, this is the one I struggled the most for figuring out how they're going to power the next generation one. Replacing the V6 is easy enough with the 2.4 inline 4 turbo. That will produce 315 horsepower just like it does in the NX. Now the RX 450H, I still don't know how they're going to do it. It could be the same exact powertrain that we see in the NX 350H. I know the numbers don't make sense, but I really don't know what they're going to do with this RX 450H or the replacement of the RX 450H. Maybe they get rid of the RX 450H, they call it a 350H here, and it's the same as the NX. So you have an RX 350 and NX 350. An RX 350h and NX 350h. Those are quite possible, and they could have the same plug-in hybrid system as well. If you guys have a better idea on how they're going to power the next generation, let me know of the RX, but I also expect them to have a fully electric RX. Whether it's the first Lexus fully electric vehicle here in the United States or not, that could be the RZ, I don't know, but we're going to keep moving. Here's the other brand new model, 3-row crossover for Lexus. It has been trademarked already, the TX 350 and 500h. But since we know 500h roughly equates to 354 horsepower that we see in the LC 500h, we can assume that it's going to be 350 horsepower or so. Now, again, the RX could have a 500h as well. I just don't know how they're going to do it. That's why I say take things with a grain of salt. We know certain things, and we obviously don't know certain things. There could also easily be a plug-in hybrid of that TX 500h, but this would be the first 3-row crossover from Lexus that doesn't cost $100,000. That is very accommodating to families. Lots of internal space, lots of 3-row capability as well for the 3rd-row passengers. And this is arguably the most important vehicle in their lineup going forward in the near future. Of course, electrification will take its own role when the time comes, and I think Lexus will be just fine when it comes to electrification. Before we move on to the sedans, we have the LX and potentially LQ. The LQ has not been confirmed, of course, but reports are saying that it's back on the table. It could be coming out as early as this July here in 2021, and some reports are saying it starts at $140,000 and tops out at $200,000. I don't know, but these are the ridiculous powertrains that the LX and the LQ could have. If you want to look more into it, just pause. I'm not going to go into too much, but the twin turbo V8 could be finally coming. And guys, lastly, before we head on over to the sedans end of things, the GX, I don't know what they're going to do with the GX. My gut is telling me they're going to cancel the GX, but if we go back to that Best Car article, they're talking about the Prado, and it's getting a redesign November of 2022. Could it be possible that its brother, the Lexus GX, could be getting redesigned in that same time period? Of course, it is a possibility. Honestly, I'm not that hopeful for it. The only way I have hope for it is that Lexus did tease recently that they want to have more off-roading options within the Lexus lineup. And what better way to do that with a body-on-frame SUV like the GX/Prado or the LX/Land Cruiser? So time will tell. Again, I'm not feeling super confident about the GX getting a redesign. I hope it does. I'm a big fan of the GX, but we got to keep moving. Over to the car end of things. This is what we have left on the car since the GS has been canceled. The IS, ES, RC, LC, and LS. And we fast forward to the future, 2022 plus. I would expect the IS to eventually get rid of the V6 for the 2.4 liter turbo. And again, the IS is a refresh. It could be getting redesigned, fingers crossed, if they don't kill it, but it should be getting redesigned, let's say by 2024, something like that would be my guess since this is a refresh. But these would be the powertrains. We have an IS 500h, around 400 horsepower potentially, and a plug-in hybrid of it as well. ISF could be coming before 2023, and that has a tried and true 5-liter 2UR GSE V8 with 471 horsepower. Next up on the list, ES 350, 350h, 450h plus. We got some new potentialities here, as well as the ES 250. So I should erase IS here, put ES, there we go. ES 250h, this ES 250 all-wheel drive, this vehicle just came out. I see them continuing it. Why? Because the upcoming NX is more than likely to have this 250 base option, and it should be much cheaper. Maybe the ES comes in a front-wheel drive ES 250 option. I don't know. As of right now, all-wheel drive is the only option with that 250. It would allow people to get in a Lexus, comfort, quiet, smoothness, quality, good customer service for a really, really cheap price point in the upcoming years. All right, but they replaced the V6 with the 2.4 liter 4-cylinder turbo that produces 315 horsepower. And then we have an ES 350h, potentially having the same powertrain as, let's say, the NX 350h or the RX 350h, just depending on what the heck they do with the RX. Again, that one's still clouded. I can't think clearly when it comes to the next generation RX and what they're going to do with those powertrains. Anyways, they could have an ES plug-in hybrid 450h plus, all-wheel drive, of course, with the direct 4 system with a lot of torque going to those rear wheels. It would be the exact same setup essentially that we're going to see in the NX Prime or the NX 450h Plus, however you want to think of it. RC might get discontinued. It doesn't sell that great. It definitely sells a lot better than the LC, but the LC is a flagship, and canceling flagships is something Lexus doesn't like to do. I mean, look in Europe, the LS still is on sale there and they don't sell any of them. So, but the RC and the IS have always been very similar powertrains, same with the GS, but the GS is dead. And we're looking at the LC now and the LS, and both of these are going to have the same or similar powertrains as we saw in the upcoming LX 600 and the LQ 600, whatever they call a potential super high-end flagship. But here we are. I do see the LC 500 keeping the 5-liter V8, but when they hybridize it, I expect them to cancel the LC 500H hybrid that we have right now with the direct shift transmission, I think is what it is, with the 2 motor generators in that transmission. It's weird. I don't like it. I haven't driven it. I know it's smooth, but it's not what this vehicle needs in terms of power. They get rid of it. They bring in the twin turbo V6 and hybridize that. The same setup we see in the upcoming Land Cruiser, for example, the hybrid Land Cruiser, the hybrid Tundra, whatever. We're going to see it in a lot of vehicles. It also could easily be put in the LS and the LC, called the 750H, twin turbo V6 hybrid. They could plug in hybrid that, get 550 horsepower or more. LCF, twin turbo V8. Let's say they bring it, that'd be great. And you guys, if you want to pause it here, go ahead. I need to leave it there because this video has gone on way too long, over 20 minutes before editing. And you guys know I'm pretty long-winded, especially when spreadsheets are involved. And guys, what do you think? Hopefully you can come up with some better ideas for the RX. That one is just a huge mind F for me. Could have shared the same powertrains as the NX, absolutely. But since the TX has been trademarked a 500H, it could be that the RX gets a 500H. But I don't know what gasoline engine they would use for it and how they plan on electrifying it. It escapes my comprehension at this point in time. Guys, if you made this far in the video, smash the like button, subscribe for more Japanese auto and Korean auto news as well as reviews. I'm getting a Hyundai Elantra today, the new redesign. Can't wait to test it out, review it for you guys, share my impressions, and have some fun driving it. And guys, I'll leave it there. Have a good day. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourselves. Let's go to 100K together. Oh, I'm so excited. Just throwing stuff. Peace out.